Good day. I am Renaldo Mackenzie, and welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. Today, I was live on Germantown radio station, GT Radio 92.9 FM, in Philadelphia, Germantown, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, having a rap and interview session about neoliberalism, globalization, income inequality, poverty and resistance, and also talking about all things regarding my new book, Privilege, Power, Position, Status, and Secrets to Unlocking Divine Intervention, and all things Philadelphia and what's happening in the world. I have recorded it for you. A bit of it is on YouTube and on the YouTube channel, Renaldo.Mackenzie. And you can also go to my website at renaldocmackenzie.com, or you could go to our homepage website, the neoliberal.com, which I will announce right now is up and running. As you know, we have a website. When we started in February, we built a website, and it's called the neoliberal.com. And we were having problems towards the end of last year. And just about a month ago or so, we permanently lost all access. But we are back. The website, the neoliberal.com, TheNeoliberal, it's up and running. And it's much better. And when you open up, we have updated the theme to give it a moral theme. And when you click on the page, it will give you access to... you will see a menu, and will take you to all the pages. It's beautiful, it's refreshing, and let me know what you think about it. But today, we will share with you the interview that I did with Thomas at the Northeast Check-In Show on Germantown Radio 92.9.
And once again, good morning and welcome to the Northwest Check-In right here on G-Town Radio, 92.9 FM WGGT LP Philadelphia, and online at G-Town Radio. And our guest for this morning is here. It is Germantown's own Renaldo Mackenzie. Renaldo,
yes.
Thanks for stopping in this morning.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
I know you've got a book out. We're going to talk about your book a little bit, and we're also going to talk about you right here in the community. Just for those who don't know who you are.
Yes.
Give us just a little background on yourself.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be in the studios today.
Indeed. I would just say that this is a very special event for us here at the station. And you may not even be aware of it, Renaldo, is that 2 years ago, when the pandemic, pretty much around the time that we had began this program, the Northwest Check-In, as a chance to check in on the community, provide them with information to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. And we have obviously, like many businesses and many organizations and event space, etc., we're unable to have our public come in and be part of our community. Obviously, we have protocols such as your vaccination card, which you kindly showed me this morning and everything, so I pop on in here. But we are excited because this is the first time in the history of this program that we've had a live guest on. The show was created during the COVID time, so we've had people on virtually. So we actually have our first physical guest, so I don't know what that means in terms of our history, but you have the honor of being the first physical guest on the Northwest Check-In.
Wow, and this is important, and this is good, and it's good to be here. I've been living in Philadelphia for a long time, especially Germantown. I mean, not a very, very long time, because you hear the accent. I'm from Jamaica, but I came here in 2009, And it has been quite an experience for me. I went to University of Pennsylvania, and when I got into University of Pennsylvania, that wasn't my plan to be at University of Penn. But I got in there, and I was able to, I got into Temple and Drexel, and then someone asked me to apply to University of Penn. But anyways, I applied, and I got in as a provisional student. And I think I was telling you this story some time ago. But I came from Jamaica. I already had gone to university. I was a pastor. I also worked as some national director. But when I came here, I brought all those skills and talents with me. And I wanted to to go to the next level. And University of Penn really grounded me. And I did a research, and I was able to publish a book that looked at poverty, looked at inequality. And I think it was the book Life and Death, not the book, the Netflix film Life and Death, by Jamaica Kincaid and Stephanie Black, which really given me this kind of interest in studying things of that affects the human, because we are about promoting positive human opportunities for the human being and competitiveness and fairness. So I decided, let me study that, because I'm from Jamaica. What are the effects of globalization?
Right.
What creates the dynamics in the world that causes brain drain, that causes that kind of global south, global north dynamic? And when we talk about global south, we talk about the developing countries. We no longer use global south, and we no longer use third world. We no longer use third world, or we use global south, which is more inclusive word, because language is important, as I said to you. But I am about, currently I have graduated from Penn. I'm at Georgetown University doing my doctorate of liberal studies, and I'm a student of liberal studies. And liberal studies speaks to issues of ethics and human value. Issues of ethics and human value, because and I would encourage anyone to be a student of liberal arts. So I study liberal arts. I study things that challenge the development of human society, issues that challenge our progress. And I've been here since 2009, but I actually moved fully in Philadelphia, in Germantown, in 2012.
Okay.
And it has been great. I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and I have several friends in the community. I'm involved in our church. I go to the church at Old First UCC Church at 4th and Race. I find that quite interesting. But what I find really, when I just came to Germantown, I was having a conversation with somebody. Germantown was ideal to me. There was something about the atmosphere.
What about it that you connected with?
I'm from Jamaica, and the Germans, we have some kind of German history in Jamaica. And Germantown has that strong influence in terms of the aesthetics of the community. It's just the feel of the community, and then the people. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that of all the places in Philadelphia, Germantown was the less crazy place. No, I mean, of all the places in Philadelphia, I thought it was one of the communities I really was fascinated with. There is this inclusivity. There is this people. There is this diversity, and there's always something happening in the community. I believe when I came here, there's something that. And not only that, it's close to the suburb. It had this suburban feel. Right. There's this openness. There's this space that you have, and so that's what I like about the air. And it's next to Lincoln. Maybe that's where some of the pond or the lake or whatever. That's where it's coming from. But the air, and it's hilly. And I'm from Jamaica, which is very mountainous and hilly, and I like that. It's not flat. So there's the atmosphere and the feel of it and the history. When I drive through Germantown, I feel like I'm in Trelawney. There's a place in Jamaica called Trelawney. So I feel as if I am in Trelawney, because it's the way in which buildings are constructed. It gives that same kind of feel. Yes, and another thing is, and the next thing is the people are inviting. The people are inviting, easy to talk to. And I decided that, this is where I want to settle in Germantown.
Well, we're glad to have you in the community. Yes. And more importantly, you stopped in here this morning to spend some time with us here and check in. The name of the program, of course, is the Northwest Check-In. We invite the citizens of our community, interesting going on culturally, civically, community-minded, to check in and be part of the program. And we're getting, just kind of touch on your book here. It's called Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty, and Resistance. Just what you kind of alluded to what inspired it, and that was kind of growing up in Jamaica and combining. But it's not just about within Jamaica. It's a more broad book, right?
The book, and the book was reviewed by Kirkle's Review and Online Book Club and several others. And I think some of the book reviewers would see, for example, Kirkle's Review said that it's an erudite analysis. It's an erudite analysis of Jamaica's economic history. But I wouldn't. But it's not just about Jamaica's economic history. It's look at the dynamics of human society
and sort of using Jamaica as
a case study.
Yes. Just for those listeners who may be unfamiliar, can you kind of give us a brief history of Jamaica and why this is a good case study?
It's a good case study because, say for example, Jamaica, and just so you know, Prince William and Princess Kate, they went to Jamaica recently, and there is this huge. Some Jamaicans are for the monarchy. Jamaica is still England is still our head of state. The Queen Elizabeth is still our head of state, but Jamaica was a colony of Britain. But before of the Spanish, Christopher Columbus discovered Jamaica in 1492, and we were a colony of Jamaica. And after that, the English took Jamaica from the Spanish, and they started the slavery or the slave trade, and the sugar plantation. They started to do. Jamaica was part of the whole slave trade, where some slaves came from Africa, and of course, and the slaves stopped in Africa. They provided the spices and so on. So the slave trade. So they were part of that. But of course, after slavery was abolished in 1833. In Jamaica, the emancipation of slavery was in 1833, and the abolishment of slavery was in 1866. This was 30 years after the abolishment. What happened was that many of the slaves left the plantation, so there was indentured servitude or indentured labor, people from China and India. So you saw that so Jamaica is mixed up of Chinese, Indian, cross-pollination. And so what happened is that Jamaica over time has since moved towards independence in 1962 in a way to develop their and to carve their own history. But what has happened is that Jamaica has had to liberalize its economies. They have to, and at one moment when Jamaica got independence in 1962, they used the British dollars. They used sterling pound, and it went from the sterling pound to the Jamaican dollars, and they had to liberalize the economy. So they had to remove tariffs, deunionize, open up their economy so as to create penetration, because as they became independent, at the same time the world was speeding towards globalization. Right. You know what was going on in the world. So many of these states, Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, and many of the former Caribbean colonial countries, the countries that were once colonies of Britain, they went in the 1960s and in that period were affected by what was happening in the world. And of course, by the 1970s, they met with the oil crisis. And the oil crisis really affected these countries to the sense that they are vulnerable and they're smaller states. And so, and as a result, they needed money, and they went to they went to the IMF and the World Bank, and they got, and that's what we talk about structural adjustment. They created a plan with the WTO and IMF and the World Bank to help vulnerable states as the world moves towards globalization and the world moves towards crossing borders, including the Caribbean islands, because part of globalization is to cross borders. You want to facilitate this crossing of borders, the exchange that takes place between countries. But part of this exchange, there is this unfairness. What is this that creates poverty? What it is that creates inequality? What it is that puts people behind? So when I came to the U.S., I was interested in that. I was interested in, I wanted to find out, why is it that people in the Caribbean, people in the global south, why is it that their lives are so vulnerable compared to the other countries? And so I wanted it to be more interdisciplinary. And so that led me to the point of wanting to explore the issues of poverty, because I come from poverty in a sense, not really poverty but I come from compared to the US, I come from poverty, and the experience of poverty, as I said to you, is different. The poverty in the Caribbean that people experience is they have a bucolic society. In the US and post-industrial country, the kind of society is different. So I wanted to understand that, and the international arrangements that creates income inequality, poverty, and then explore solutions to that. And so, of course, when I came here, I started to, I worked with Martin Oppenheimer and Walter Litt and some of these people to study this concept of globalization. And of course, I was reading several books. Martin Oppenheimer was very influential in my life. But I wanted to understand, I was interested in globalization because Jamaicans travel, people of the Caribbean, the world is about travel. People travel, and I said in the book, people travel for opportunity.
Right.
People travel to get to the next level. And the world has always been about travel. But of course, there are those who are preventing travel. There's the immigration issue, and I wrote recently, until we deal with the problem of immigration, or the problem of poverty and income inequality, or the unfairness within competition, or the unfair competition in society, we won't deal with immigration. So we won't fix the problem properly or resolve it.
So you're saying that the immigration issues are really related to income inequality and poverty, because people are looking for greater advances.
Yes. So people are looking to advance, and people have and travel. The story of America is the story of immigrants coming here looking for opportunity. The story of people in the global south and vulnerable people are people who are struggling, looking for opportunity. And travel facilitates and produces. Immigration speaks to that issue of travel, and globalization speaks to that, because globalization is about crossing borders. Right. And we are to facilitate this kind of cross-border relations, or the exchange that takes place in humanity, because life is about people and how people relate. Life is about people and how people relate. And we talk about communication. Communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. Popular what was the monopoly. And so what we are doing, and globalization facilitates this kind of exchange, this kind of movement, and so on. But it also brings with it brain drain. Say, for example, I'm from, where the best and the brightest are leaving. So I wanted to understand all those concepts. The fact that people are moving and that they have to move. And at the same time, there are immigration policies that is preventing that. So one thing that I talk about is connectionism. I talk about the fact that the kind of Protestant ethic that drives us no more is not one of the Protestant ethic, or the one of, that was what Max Weber says, hard work, savings, and so on. But it's one of nepotism and greed and connectionism, where people form connections and groups and association that and then create laws to govern that trade and to facilitate international movement. But more often than not, some persons benefit and others don't. And so that's what we have. So globalization helps to facilitate this, but in a sense, there are winners and losers.
Right.
But why are there winners and losers?
That was my question. What do you see causing this divide? On one hand, we're talking globalization, when you think about it from an economic and business aspect, you start to go, okay, it seems to be without getting into like a heavy-duty political discussion, it seems that those in the corporate larger scale are all for it when it benefits them, yet when they see the individual seeking the opportunity, that is frowned upon, yet it is still, that the divide, it doesn't seem to be equal. So
that is true. I have said that, what I have said is that what has happened with the Caribbean or the people of the global south, or people who are not meaningfully involved in globalization that is neoliberalized. Right. And when I talk about neoliberalism or neoliberal, neo means new, liberal means free, So we're talking about breaking down barriers to globalization. But Michael Crozier talks about the bureaucratic phenomenon.
Right.
And the bureaucratic phenomenon is, in a sense, a duplicitous, deals with issue of duplicity, deals with issues of hypocrisy or Pharisaicalism, where you say, do as I do, but not as I say. So what happened was that, say for example, the World Trade Organization and many of its international bodies are created, and when they were created so that persons can abide by certain rules and agreement that speaks to fair game and competition. And I've always said that I am for competition. Nothing is wrong with competition, but the problem of competition is, one, there are those who has already gained a competitive advantage in the world. And so if you have already gained some kind of competitive advantage in the world at the expense of others, and now you're moving in a globalized world, we have to facilitate their inclusion in the world. We have to try to facilitate their development in the world. And so what has happened is that when organizations came together with rules and guidelines that would say, for example, talking about structural adjustment policies to regulate the economies, certain guidelines have to be fair. So in the sense that say for example, I talk about this in my book, at one instance, in an effort to speed towards globalization, so as to facilitate multinationalism and transnationalism, which was actually the overall, what has happened with neoliberal globalization. One of the things that we know that was part of the structural adjustment agreement with the IMF, the World Bank, and which falls under WTO, because World Trade Organization is about facilitating trade between countries and so on. And then the IMF and the World Bank was created to provide smaller states and developing states with the aid so that they can meaningfully engage the world, this new thrust of globalization. But this is what happened. As I said, I talk about the bureaucratic phenomenon, or this issue of Pharisaicalism, where do as I say but not as I do. The problem is, say for example, farmers and milk producers in Jamaica and in some Caribbean islands could not now subsidize, because you don't want unfair trade. Right. You want it so part of this neoliberal globalization, which I said is a strategy, because I'm going to speak to the issue of strategy. Mm-hmm. Strategy was here it is that the US and other post-industrial countries, the post-industrial countries, were subsidizing their farmers and so on and so forth, while in the global south and these other countries, they were part of the agreement and they couldn't subsidize the local. That was part of the agreement. So you see, we're talking about neoliberal, we're talking about globalization, we're talking about facilitating trade, but I'm talking about fair game. But here it is that there's other persons from other countries who are already dealing with the past, of colonialism and so on. Now, I met with the issue of an inability to provide necessary developmental gains or investment in their country based on WTO's ruling, which now puts them back. It puts them back because now they have to get a loan, what do they apply to the loan? They apply what they believe that how the Caribbean, and see for example, Michael Manley was the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, indicated in an interview some time ago, talks about the fact that they were given loans then because because the problem in the Caribbean is money. They don't have money, and we know tourism and bauxite and so on, and agriculture is no longer part of the. Say for example, the Caribbean used to export banana, but after NAFTA, they no longer, because they had a preferential agreement.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And of course, because it was against WTO policies. So the point I'm making is that you see, globalization and the world comes together to facilitate trade and so on. But at the same time, where are some of these countries starting from?
Exactly. So you have a good country that's already, again, we'll use Jamaica as the example. It's a small product. It has, as you mentioned earlier, the on the scale of poverty.
Yes.
It's definitely, in the races, they're way down here.
Yes.
And so, and they're having to compete or at least factor that. But how does this impact the actual individual?
Yes.
If that's what I guess it's...
It...
Like a citizen, a person, a human being living in Jamaica.
In Jamaica is... You can... When you watch Life and Death, and even if you listen to the stories, and the fact that, Jamaica has people in the Caribbean, we talk about brain drain. Mm-hmm. The fact that people travel. I said, okay, I listened to the introduction of my book, sure. Really, and you have to, this is quite interesting, and I thought, because I believe it also talks about my experience as an individual of the global south moving to the global north, and you're talking about global south, global north dynamic, and so on. I said, when we hear of Jamaica, we think of the Caribbean, we think of beautiful islands of paradise, with sun, sea, and sand, reggae music, cannabis, and Irish people like Usain Bolt, people who are living out their best lives and desires and dreams. But this book analyzes this motif, given the historical and current economic and political situation in Jamaica and the global south. And I said, in an attempt to escape the adverse realities of poverty, inequality, and injustice, the people of the global south find themselves in north metropolises. Notice I say north. I'm playing with it. I'm being very deliberate when I say north metropolises, the post-industrial country, with very little agency and minimal change, to their lives. So, there is no escape for the person from the global south. There is no escape. So they feel locked in because there you have some Jamaicans feel as though it's a political issue. That the politicians are weak-kneed and lack vision, and that. And of course in Jamaica there's the issue of criminality. So Jamaicans and people of the global south are always looking to travel. They're always looking for opportunity. Because for many Jamaicans and many people in the global south and vulnerable countries, there is no hope except outside of their own countries.
And I'd like to get back to that and talk about how it impacts the country itself due to brain drain.
Yes.
But let's take a little break here for those listening in this morning on the Northwest Check-In. We are here with author, scholar, Germantown resident, Renaldo McKenzie. We're talking about neoliberalism, globalization, income inequality, poverty, and resistance, which just happens to be the name of his latest book.
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to take a little note. It's something we have every morning at this time. We improve our vocabulary.
Okay.
Renaldo, with a word of the week produced by one of our programmers, Reed McCardle, who hosts Speech.
Your vocabulary. Accordingly, we give you this, the word of the week. Saprostomos. Adjective. Saprostomous. Having bad breath.
Okay, I'm gonna add that one. That's a good one. All right.
And I'm sure we're both going to figure out how to use this word.
Yes. Is it Saprostia?
Saprostomous.
Saprostomous?
Yes. Saprostomous.
Saprostomous.
So there you go.
I hope I don't have Saprostomous this morning.
There you go. we have Mike socks.
Oh yes, we are apart. Yes.
We're good.
Yes.
We have this nice spray just in case. But we're not using it this morning. You're fine. Thanks for joining us. This is fun to have an actual live guest in here. Just a couple other things I want to talk to our listeners about that we do here in the morning is this weekend there's lots of stuff going on in cleaning up our neighborhood. And Germantown is having a number of cleanups.
That was part one of a live recording I did on Germantown Radio 92.9 FM, the Northeast Check-In Show with Thomas. And we have a part two, so do not go anywhere. We still have more to come on that very interesting interview. Thank you so much. And just so you know, if you have any comments or feedback, or if you would like to reach out to me to to rap with you and to talk with you some more about the concepts and the ideas. Don't just visit renaldocmckenzie.com or the neoliberal.com and send me an email. The Neoliberal at renaldocmckenzie.com. And just so you know, you can also access this show by going on the neoliberalround.wordpress.com. And now, the part 2 and the continuation of the live recording with Thomas in Germantown Radio. Here we go. Can I just add one more thing since you're talking about events?
Anything you have.
We cannot forget that there's a book signing happening at the Germantown Espresso Bar on Sunday. It was supposed to be Saturday, but it's going to be Sunday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the book reading will be at 12 noon.
Okay.
Yes, and so please come on and get involved. And for those persons who don't know, but there are some churches that have food cupboards on Saturday, which is tomorrow, that from between 7 a.m. and 12 o'clock. The church right by the corner of Germantown Avenue and Washington Lane, the new space Christian Life, I believe, and then there's the church right by that's the distribution center, the corner of Tulpahawken and Bayton. For persons in Germantown who don't know where to access food cupboards, they provide bags with food for persons who are in need. So if you guys know anyone that is in need today, check them out at the corner of Germantown Avenue and Bayton and Tulpahawken, or the corner of Germantown and Washington Lane, right by the church. Yes.
And just reiterating what this program is about is it definitely connecting, checking in, and having our citizens in our community even share information that we may not have, and or reminding them of things. So
yes,
you definitely being part of this morning's discussion. So back to my question was, how does the brain drain, like obviously people are leaving the Caribbean islands, coming to northern metropolises, and they don't return. So how does that impact the country itself and its progress? Its stability?
If you read the back of my book, I said that I am working on another book. And I've already did some papers on it. The other side of the brain drain, the secrets to divine intervention, and the other side of the brain drain. The other side of the brain drain. And what does brain drain? I said to you earlier that brain drain is part of the effect or the consequences of the result of globalization. Because what happened is that because Jamaica started, because countries have to deunionize, because countries have to get rid of tariffs and anything that and local subsidies and so on. Because of that, it affected the local economy in a sense. And so you find that a lot of persons have to travel to the global north from these countries because of limited opportunities. And I think it provides it's good. And one of the things I've said is that it is actually positive to have people travel because resources are limited in these countries. Because at one sense studies are done that shows how brain drain the best and the brightest people are leaving these countries, and when the best and the brightest people leave these countries, it affects the value, the currency of that country, the ability for the people to work together. So that's part of the thing when brain drain is affecting Jamaica because of the brain drain, because the best and the brightest people are leaving. But and of course, part of the problem with immigration is that post-industrial countries only take the best and the brightest from these countries as well. Okay, and of course, these countries are all, and part of the argument is that they are already limited by opportunities. So that's part of the problem. But it facilitates remittances. Remittance provides these countries with tremendous opportunities. Say when you talk about Jamaican GDP, we're talking about tourism and bauxite, but also remittances. So Jamaica get remittances, and in fact, I think I quoted as I last year I looked at the remittance figures, and because of COVID, Jamaica and some of these Caribbean islands were struggling tremendously, and they needed remittance. But I think because of the world, because of what was going on in the world, many of these countries were struggling. So you find that, say for example, in Jamaica, they couldn't pay. Some of them they couldn't pay the professors. Some schools were closed and so on. And so we talk about how brain drain. Oh, I apologize. You were about to say something.
No. I just had a thought in my head right there about things you were talking about. I didn't relate the aspect of the impact of COVID on these countries that are really dependent upon, I would guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, a major part of their country's income and generates is through tourism. And with that being impacted through COVID, how did that play into this?
Well, when I talk about what has happened is that it does affect travel, and not only that, and many of these countries had a problem getting the vaccine. So it was a myriad of problems and challenges for smaller states, because we're dealing not just with the issue of we're talking about travel. They already have limited finances, but now they have tourism, which is one of the number one earners, revenue sector within the Caribbean and Jamaica, Barbados, and so on and so forth. So their economy was affected, which affected their ability to generate foreign exchange dollars, so that they can continue to spend on especially foreign and capital goods that they lack, and so that has affected the country. But what has happened is that the U.S. and several other foreign countries has helped Jamaica during this very difficult process, and in a sense, some people were really there was still some amount of travel, but it really affected Jamaica in the sense that many of the hotels were closed down.
Right.
The economy was having Barbados and many of these countries having a problem keeping their doors open, their hotel doors open, and as a result, it affected the economy and the amount of money they were able to generate last year because of COVID. COVID significantly affected the Caribbean islands and countries of the global south because of the number one earning sector took a hit, and already struggling with limited resources. This has helped to fix this the lack created by COVID, or created by the fact that the tourism wasn't booming last year in these islands. And I can tell you, remittances in more makes up the lack. And when we talk about brain drain really helps also. I'm not going to say brain drain. I'm not going to use the word brain drain. But because in a sense, these countries, they may lose brains, but they gain finances, because many of these people wouldn't. It's hard to find opportunities.
Right.
People are looking for opportunities, and especially Jamaica is part of and we're part of the Americas. We're part of the Americas in a sense. So many Jamaicans, the opportunity for them to be able to be here and to send money back to their country, so as to help and to aid and to prevent further poverty. And we talked about last year, 2 years ago, when I was wrapping up the study of this book last year, because I finished writing the book in 2016, but I also when I was about to publish it last year, I provided updated poverty figures as it relates to Jamaica. But it shows that while globalization in some sense has created some kind of income inequality, has increased, exacerbated income inequality in Jamaica and poverty. In a sense, there has been some amount of positive for Jamaica and the Caribbean, but in some instances, there's also abject poverty, especially those who are poor are getting poorer.
So what is the solution for us
Yes.
on the larger scale with countries where, but as the individual, I mean, we're, it's very easy for us, like, I'm just to live in our own little bubbles in our pocket.
Yeah.
But our impact is just one citizen right here in Philadelphia, in Germantown. Yes. And knowing that what can we do in this big picture of globalization, realizing that, our actions and everything we do impacts the
Wow.
world? How do we fit into the big picture? I know that's a really deep, heavy question.
No, I am happy you asked me that question. What can we do? I must preface my answer by saying this. I watched President Zelensky recently as he spoke to Congress, and he ended with the most powerful point, which I find quite interesting. He said, peace in your country no longer depends, the peace in your country no longer depends on the efforts of you to ensure to work for peace in your own country, but now it depends on ensuring for peace in other parts of the world. And I completely agree with him. And of course, we said no man is an island, no man stand alone, each man, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's an attack against one country. A democrat is an attack against another country. So what efforts can we do here? And just so you know, I believe that as people, we are all one.
Right.
As people, we have a responsibility, not just to help ourselves. Because I have said, I am about adding value. As life is about people and how people relate, and that relationship. What is that? What is the level of that relationship? What is the nature of that? The level or the dynamic of that relationship, of that life that we live, and what is it that makes it beautiful? And I have said that. The ability to be able to help the other,
right?
Because if we can't work for peace in another country and help the other, then it affects it. It speaks volumes about us and who we are as people with value, people with principles, people with morals, people with ethics who have a responsibility. And I said, I don't know if people think in terms of ethics anymore. What is the highest ethic? To preserve a life. But when we talk about the preservation of life, we're talking about preserving the physical. But people don't understand that the physical is tied to the psychological as well. Okay? And people's lives are connected. The physical is connected. So we have a responsibility as people. And just so you know, when I talk about the diaspora, there are people in Germantown. There are so many people in Germantown who are of the Jamaican heritage. Right. Caribbean people that live here. So in a sense, part of the Jamaicas and the Caribbean challenge, as it relates to trying to develop a level of independence, because I say to Jamaicans and the Caribbean countries and global South countries, they are dependent capitalist countries. They are vulnerable. They are, they're very responsive to exogenous shocks or anything that happens in the world. The COVID revealed to us the issues of income inequality and poverty and so on and so forth, and the problems that these countries had to. In fact, some people left their countries, some people in these countries found it easier for them to come here to get vaccinated. They came to the US and got vaccinated and went back to Jamaica. But if they were in Jamaica, they wouldn't be vaccinated, or Barbados, or Trinidad, or the UK, so to speak. So that is. So we have a responsibility to work for peace for others, because in fact I believe that is one. Do unto others, the rule, that do unto others as much as you want others to do unto you. Okay, and we have a responsibility to help the other, because people who are vulnerable people, we have a responsibility to lift up people. So part of my responsibility is so that's what I write, why I write. And some people are upset about what I write, because I write about issues of justice, about discrimination. But if you read my blog and I have my website and so on, I said, what is the ultimate of all things? The ultimate of all things is that we become one. We become one with reality in all of our individuality. That is the ultimate. That and a man, and that I am saying that, and I've come to this. I used to be a pastor and in Jamaica for years, and I said, I'm writing a book, The Secrets to Unlocking Divine Intervention, and I cannot wait to share that book with you.
We definitely would love to have you back and talk, because you've got lots of information here.
I am emotional. I'm being emotional right now.
And you hit on a lot of really good topics and things to think about. And, one of the things you were talking about is how we're all connected.
But one more thing. Let me just ask one question. Sure. Who is my neighbor?
We all are neighbors.
We all are neighbors.
This is one of the joys of,
Yes.
One of the reasons I gravitated and got this radio bug in my 20s and actually,
Well, that's a long time. And
it's been a while, yeah. But one of the things about community radio in particular is that we can have this connection. Yeah. And we can share this, and there's all these people listening right now, and they're hearing our conversations, and they're connecting, and hopefully they're having things. But one of the things with the internet aspect of it is there are people across the world now who are connected to this community just by this little line of listening. And so we're all making connections and bringing us more together as global citizens and world citizens, as opposed to our own little bubbles in our own world.
Yes, that is so true.
Getting beyond the self, and what you were saying earlier, really, it's very easy to get wrapped up in ourselves and think, my life's this way, or it's great. But to think, wake up every day. Yes. How am I doing as a human being? Okay, I'm okay. I look good. I feel good about myself. Now, what can I do to help someone else in this world feel good too? Because everyone wants to feel happy. It can be something as simple as saying hello to that person, or like just smiling at them in the morning. And it's just that little step is kind of the little things that we don't think about is just where we start.
That is true. The word Philadelphia comes from the Greek word. Well, it comes from a Greek word. It comes to us from Greek, and many people, and every time I meet people in the coffee shops, in the streets, and let me tell you, those people who listen to me now, many of you might know me, I know this community very well. I walk up and down. People don't see me, but I see people. I have conversations with people. I listen to people, and some of it is anthropological, and it's formed part of my writing. But I do Uber sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
I have done Uber, and I'm telling people that, and I deliberately do it because I find it anthropological. By the way, if you listen to some of my podcasts, I do a podcast called the Neoliberal Round Podcast. It's available on all podcasts. And if you listen to my podcast, I do a take called Street Vibe. Part of that is conversations I have while doing Uber driving. And I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't know if I ever told you this one time before, that I was working as an executive in New York, as a junior executive, as a chief planner for a logistics company. And I was having a difficult time. It was very challenging for me. Working at that particular place, but it was great. I did a lot of positive stuff, but I wasn't feeling as if I was realizing my full potential. Right. My full potential. I want to add value to people, and as value is being added to me, I want to be able to live and work in a dynamic context. Yes, that serving people, helping people to realize their full potential. And so and that is what I hope to do. But the word Philadelphia comes from the word phileo, which means love, but it's a brotherly kind of love, because you have different words for love. Right. But the word that they used, the Greek word for love that they used to define Philadelphia was phileo, instead of agapeo, because agapeo means unconditional love, but phileo means a kind of brotherly sisterly love. Okay, so Philadelphia is about a brotherly sister. It's a love that is brotherly. Phileo, adelpho, it's a brotherly love. But and I say to people, where is that love? Because what's happened. Recently they stole my car. My car was stolen at the Sunoco gas station, and there's been several thefts that's going on, and Philadelphia is becoming. And I said to you when we started, Germantown appealed to me, and please, and this is, I'm being very perspectival when I said earlier. Well, there's something when compared to other parts of Philadelphia, I found Germantown to be less. I said less crazy, but let me not use the word crazy for people who are offended by that. So let me apologize for people who might have heard that and felt a little bit felt disrespected. So when I mean less crazy, I mean it's not as active, it's not as busy. I do not like driving into Northfield because it's just busyness of the road. It's cumbersome. It's just a lot of congestion and so on. In a sense, Germantown is there's a little bit of suburban feel to it. So I really like that kind of. So, but you see what's going on in Philadelphia. Quite a lot of theft, carjackings, and so on and so forth. But there is a need for people. And I've said recently, though, part of the problem we have in society, there is a lot of people are being left behind, and sometimes some of this crime and so on is people are trying to be part of a kind of reality, a kind of greed, a kind of realization of the self to achieve the self. So this individualism that we have, the thing is, the problem that we will not be able to help. You know, we are Philadelphia, but this individualism is what is the challenge to this Philadelphia, to this brotherliness, to this sisterliness, to this love which is unconditional. So yes, if we are Philadelphia, then what do we do as people of love? We help the other. We help those in other countries.
And that is a great way to wrap our edition up.
Yes.
I think that's no one's gonna if you're gonna argue with that sentiment, then, to quote you are really crazy if you're gonna argue with that question. So once again, Renaldo, it's been a pleasure having you on this morning.
Definitely.
Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Equality, Poverty and Resistance is the name of your book, and your book signing is on Sunday.
Book signing is on Sunday. The book is, I'm just so you know, the book is available in all platforms, the audio, the audible book. It's also available on Kindle, in the Nook, hardcover, paperback, so on and so forth. The book signing is this Sunday. We don't have enough space. We don't have enough books for everyone. So if we have a limited number of books, so if we have more than what we have seen that's going to come to the event, then but we have a book reading at 12 o'clock that same day, and people can also purchase the book on Amazon. And if you go online, it's all over, and you can also purchase the book on my website, renaldocmckenzie.com or theneoliberal.com. So guys, there's lots happening. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to tell you guys some other positive stuff that is happening. But I told you, I'm going to end with this. Yesterday, I'm going to be working on a new book. It's called Privilege, Power, Position, Status, and the Secrets to Unlocking Divine Intervention. I'm engaging Leader Press, who will be working with me. Leader Press is USA's and Wall Street Journal #1 best-selling press. They are working with me to publish my next book, and I'm grateful for that. And thank you so much for giving me the chance to be here. And guys, thank you for listening to us, and continue to journey with us. Take care. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. And until then, continue to send us your feedback and your comments, and share the show with your family, friends. Send us your audios and your comments and your posts and your articles, and we will broadcast them for you. What is the ultimate of all things? That we become one in all of our individualities. That we become one with reality, with all of our individualities. Because a man said once you label me, you negate me.